The night it happened was unlike any other, a routine traffic stop that spiraled into something far more sinister. It was 11:23 p.m. when the blue and red lights flashed in Ifunanya's rearview mirror. She wasn't speeding. She hadn't run a red light. But in America, being a black woman alone on a deserted highway meant the rules didn't matter. She took a deep breath, signaling right before pulling over. The police cruiser stopped behind her, two officers stepping out, their hands hovering near their holsters. She had just left a high-profile diplomatic gala, her elegant floral Ankara dress still crisp, her mind replaying conversations she had with some of the most powerful figures in the country. But now, here she was, caught in the headlights of a moment that felt dangerously unpredictable. The officer rapped on the window. "License and registration." His voice was firm, unreadable. Ifunanya moved slowly, both hands visible, reaching for her purse. "I need to get it from my bag," she said calmly. The second officer, standing near the trunk, angled his flashlight into the back seat. "What's in the bag?" His voice carried a quiet suspicion. Ifunanya unzipped her purse, her fingers brushing against something small, metallic, and significant: the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The moment she pulled it out, everything changed. The first officer took a sharp step back, his breath catching. The second officer's grip on his flashlight tightened as he exchanged a glance with his partner. Confusion, suspicion, fear. The radio crackled. "Unit 17, status?" Silence. The officer at her window cleared his throat. "Where did you get that?" Ifunanya held his gaze, unwavering. "It was awarded to me." A pause. A long, loaded pause. Then the first officer's demeanor shifted, slightly. "Step out of the car, ma'am." Her heartbeat quickened. Not, "You're free to go." Not, "Sorry for the mistake. Step out." She stepped onto the pavement, the night air cool against her skin. The officers weren't looking at her as just another driver anymore. They were looking at her as something else, something they hadn't been trained for. One officer pressed his radio. "Dispatch, we have a situation." Situation? The words lingered in the air. The second officer's eyes flicked toward her handbag again. "Ma'am, I need you to turn around and put your hands where we can see them." A cold realization settled in Ifunanya's gut. They weren't reacting to her as someone with an honored medal. They were reacting to her as a threat. The medal should have meant prestige. Instead, it meant danger. But why? Something wasn't adding up. Then, before she could even process her next move, the radio crackled again, and a distorted voice said something that made the officers freeze. It was just 3 words, but those 3 words changed everything. "Stand down! Now!" The officers stiffened. One flinched. The other stepped back, exchanging an uneasy glance with his partner. They had orders, but from who? Ifunanya's pulse thundered. Who had just intervened? Why did these officers, who were moments away from escalating, suddenly hesitate? The officer nearest to her lowered his hand from his holster, jaw tight. His mouth opened, but no words came. Then, the unmarked black SUV appeared, pulling up fast. Its tinted windows revealed nothing. The tires crunched against the gravel as it rolled to a stop. The back door opened, and out stepped a man in a flawless black suit, his dark sunglasses reflecting the streetlights. Ifunanya didn't recognize him, but the officers did. And whatever they saw in his expression made them take 3 steps back. The suited man's voice was smooth, but final. "She's coming with me." The officers didn't argue. They didn't resist. They just obeyed. And as Ifunanya was led toward the SUV, one thought pounded in her mind. Who the hell just saved me? And why do I feel like I'm in even more danger now? The SUV smelled like polished leather and secrecy. Ifunanya sat still, her hands folded in her lap as the suited man took the seat beside her. The vehicle pulled away from the curb smoothly, but she noticed something. There was no police escort following. Whoever this man was, he didn't need one. She turned to him. "Who are you?" Silence. She clenched her fists. "Where are we going?" He adjusted his cufflinks, not even looking at her. "You should consider yourself lucky, Miss Ifunanya." Her breath caught. He knew her name. That meant this wasn't random. She leaned forward slightly. "I don't believe in luck. I believe in facts." He smirked, finally turning his head. "Then here's a fact. You were about 10 seconds away from being taken in for questioning tonight. And if that had happened, your medal wouldn't have saved you." A chill ran through her spine. What the hell was going on? She had earned that medal for her humanitarian work, building schools, fighting corruption, brokering peace deals behind closed doors. She had never committed a crime in her life. So why had the police treated her like a national security threat? She stared at the man beside her, his face unreadable behind those dark sunglasses. "What do you want from me?" she asked. The SUV made a sharp turn onto a road that led away from the city lights. The buildings grew fewer, the silence heavier. "You're asking the wrong question," the man said. She swallowed. "Then what's the right question?" His head tilted slightly. "Who gave you that medal?" Her brow furrowed. "The President of the United States." A humorless chuckle escaped his lips. "Did he?" Her stomach twisted. "What are you saying?" The man leaned in, lowering his voice. "That medal you carry, it's not just an honor." Ifunanya's heart pounded. "Then what is it?" A pause. Then, a flash of headlights behind them. The SUV's driver stiffened. "We have a tail!" Ifunanya turned, catching a glimpse of dark vehicles approaching fast. The suited man muttered something into his earpiece. "Increase speed!" The SUV roared forward, tires gripping the road as the pursuit began. Ifunanya's pulse raced. What had she gotten herself into? One of the chasing cars pulled closer, too close. The suited man cursed under his breath. "They were waiting for us." Before Ifunanya could ask who, a loud bang shattered the night. Gunfire. The SUV swerved violently, the driver barely avoiding the next shot. Ifunanya's breath came short, adrenaline flooding her veins. "We're not making it to the safe house," the driver shouted. The suited man made a snap decision. "Change of plans. We ditch the car." Ditch the car? On a speeding highway? "No," Ifunanya said firmly. "Tell me what's going on first." Another shot rang out, splintering the back windshield. "Out, now!" Before she could protest, the SUV skidded to a stop and the door flung open. "Run!" the suited man ordered. But Ifunanya didn't run. She turned and saw who was chasing them. Her stomach dropped. She recognized one of the men stepping out of the car behind them. It was someone she had seen before, someone she trusted. Her mind screamed that this didn't make sense, but her instincts screamed something louder. She was never supposed to survive tonight. Ifunanya's heart stopped for a second. The man stepping out of the pursuing car was someone she knew, someone she had trusted, someone she had once considered an ally. The streetlights illuminated his face as he adjusted his tie like this was just another business meeting. But the cold look in his eyes said otherwise. The suited man beside her cursed under his breath. "I knew it," he muttered. Ifunanya turned sharply. "You knew who was after me." "I had my suspicions." He was already pulling a small firearm from his jacket. "Now we run." "No." Her voice was steady, despite the storm raging inside her. "I need answers." The man approaching her wasn't just a government official. He was high level, a decision maker, someone who sat at the same tables where power truly lived. He had once shaken her hand at an award ceremony, smiling, congratulating her humanitarian work. And now he was here, chasing her down with men carrying guns. Why? Her fingers clutched the presidential medal inside her purse. It was cold, heavy, filled with a meaning she no longer understood. The suited man beside her didn't hesitate. If we stay, we die. The gunmen in the car behind them were moving now, shadowed figures with tactical precision spreading out, forming a loose perimeter. Not cops. Something else. The suited man grabbed her wrist. We have seconds before they make their move. Decide now. Ifunanya's breath came short, but her mind was made up. She yanked her arm away. No more running! She stepped forward. The suited man barely hid his frustration, but she ignored him. Her gaze was locked on the man she once trusted. What the hell is going on? She demanded. The official stopped, adjusting his cuffs like he had all the time in the world. His men kept moving, tightening the invisible net around her. You should have just gone home, he said finally. Her stomach turned. Gone home? After what just happened? After being hunted? The official sighed, rubbing his temple. I was hoping we could do this quietly, Ifunanya. His voice was almost disappointed. The suited man beside her shifted. You mean before she found out the truth? The official's expression hardened. Careful. No, Ifunanya cut in. Say it. Say whatever it is that has you out here trying to bury me in the middle of the night. The official exhaled sharply, then gave a subtle nod to his men. They didn't shoot, didn't charge. Instead, one of them pulled a burner phone from his pocket and held it up. A video started playing. Ifunanya barely had time to register what she was seeing before the blood drained from her face. It was her, but not a recording she had ever seen before. She was in a private meeting room speaking to someone off camera. The conversation was tense. I can't be part of this, her recorded voice said. If this leaks, if the world finds out, you know what happens next. The clip cut off. Ifunanya's throat dried. She had no memory of ever saying those words, but the voice in the video was hers. The setting looked real. Everything looked real. Where did you get that? She whispered. The official pocketed the phone. Let's stop pretending, Ifunanya. You're smart, smarter than most. You had to know the medal wasn't just an honor. The world felt like it was tilting. Then what is it? The official gave her a long look. You're carrying evidence of something bigger than you can imagine. Ifunanya's pulse hammered. The medal. She pulled it from her bag, staring at it. The shiny, heavy emblem gleamed under the streetlights, but she had never thought to look closer. The suited man beside her tensed. Ifunanya, don't... But it was too late. She turned the medal over, and for the first time, she saw it. A microchip embedded seamlessly into the back. Her breath caught. This wasn't just an award, it was a data key. Her stomach twisted. What's on here? The official smiled, but there was no warmth. Enough to bring down the most powerful government on Earth. The weight in her palm suddenly felt heavier. This was never about her, never about some routine traffic stop. They had been waiting for the right moment to take her out. The suited man beside her didn't wait for permission. He grabbed her arm and ran. Gunfire erupted behind them. Bullets slammed into the pavement, shattering glass, sparking against metal. The official's men had lost patience. Ifunanya sprinted, gripping the metal like her life depended on it. Because it did. The suited man shoved her around a corner, yanking out a second gun. He fired 3 times, hitting one of their pursuers. The man went down with a sharp cry. "Keep moving!" the suited man shouted. A second black SUV was parked nearby. Escape. They dove into the car, the suited man gunning the engine before Ifunanya could even pull her seatbelt on. The tires screeched as they tore through the streets, chased by the official's men. Ifunanya's hands were shaking, her breathing ragged. She had spent years fighting for justice, fighting corruption, fighting for the truth. And all this time, she had been holding the biggest truth of all without even knowing it. The suited man's voice snapped her back. "We have to destroy that chip before they get to you." Ifunanya shook her head. "No." His knuckles tightened on the wheel. "You don't understand. They'll never stop coming." "Then let's make them regret it." The suited man glanced at her. For the first time, a smirk tugged at his lips. "Now you're talking." The SUV hurtled toward the city. They weren't running anymore. They were taking the fight straight to the top. And before the night was over, the whole world was going to know exactly why she was supposed to die tonight.